talk about your revenue along with everything else, you know?
That's your
I mean, we can start now, we're 20 minutes early, and we're gonna have the exact same conversation in 20 minutes.
If you wouldn't mind signing
I
in.
know, I'm just saying, it is, you know, but we also have to acknowledge that the reason we raised the revenue didn't go away. It really got more expensive, and we voluntarily allowed the revenue to go down. That was a choice that we made, and so that's impacting our ability to meet our current bills. If your bills are what they are, and something happens, you know, you lost your job or whatever, and your rent goes down, you have to acknowledge that you can no longer be here because you don't have enough money. So you have to look at what you can lower, but you also have to look at how you bring more money in.
But we lost 36,000 residents, or the size of Peoria last year, so doesn't that burden then transfer to who's ever left?
Well, yeah, so then you have to talk about overall, what can you do to start encouraging people to come back in? But it's not something that will happen quickly. I can't undo that right now.
I'm just looking for what you've been working on. I mean, you've been there this will be your third term? Yeah, fourth? I'm just wondering, what kind of plan is there? I mean, I hear a lot of variables and everything, and there is no one, but I mean, after that long,
Yep.
you gotta have some kind of plan. What are we gonna do?
Yeah, see, remember, I
No,
don't
but
get
you
to be
should.
Queen of Illinois.
No, I
and that's
understand
the
that, but
problem.
after 4 terms, I know you have.
Well, even the governor technically isn't king, right? We have a system of checks and balances.
Mobilized here.
We want you to be the headline gal to get something going.
Okay. Okay.
It's gonna be a tough night.
Yeah.
No, the people have very, very strong feelings about Madigan, and I can't make that go away. At the end of the day,
Wait, tell me why he's been there 30 years, the state is in the conditions it is.
He's trying to answer your question. You want to
Well,
answer the
wait,
question?
let me finish.
You want me
I
to
have
answer
seen
you want to ask a question?
nothing that he's done to say he's the right man in the job. Democrats keep him in office because supposedly he has an iron fist.
so I would argue that it is not, in any way, shape, or form, really my role to defend Madigan. You all know he makes my job way harder than it needs to be because I'm not judged on the work that I do, I'm judged on the work that he does. And I understand that, as a Democrat, I did vote for him as Speaker. There were no other options. No other Democrat actually put their house in the ring, or their hat in the ring, and ran for Speaker. I may be in for a few years, but I do not have the seniority to run for Speaker. If you're all asking, well, why didn't you do that yourself? That clearly was not an option on the table, right? Yes, the state of Illinois has problems. They are much larger than one man. And it is a very easy advertising gimmick to try and say, well, it's all that guy's fault. Because it's much easier to understand the idea of it's that guy's fault than to try and really break down the complexity of how we got here over time and the role of various personas, the roles of the Democrats and the Republicans. That's what it comes down to. Honestly, we are dealing with the same problem that every other state is actually dealing with. We're not as unique as most people want to believe that we are. So we can take Mike Madigan out. At the end of the day, if you really look at our demographics and look at the Chicagoland area, you're going to have another Democrat for Speaker. And the Democratic majority does not believe in the very conservative policies the governor has made the budget contingent on passing. So with or without Mike Madigan, you're not going to get Democratic agreement to the governor round or turn around agenda.
I don't want to read anything about what Madigan's doing to try to resolve the problem.
So Madigan historically,
All I hear or read is he's not there, he doesn't return phone calls. I mean, is it alternative facts?
yep, absolutely.
Why they keep
Wait.
going up?
So, well, because again, just because I voted yes doesn't mean enough other people voted yes. So yes, I voted 19 different times on proposals that would freeze property taxes in some way, because
Well, why they
how
keep
many
going
of you think your taxes are too high?
They're very high.
Okay.
Then why
I'm
aren't you
with
working
you.
with your people? Why aren't you
Pardon?
working with your legislators and your local communities?
Sure. So I am, and I talk with my fellow legislators on a very constant basis about the property taxes and how heavy they are and what are the options for trying to make them better. We all have different viewpoints about how to go about doing that.
That, you
We
said you're
haven't agreed
against
to
your
the
pay
same
raise, but you
legislation.
just got a $10,000 pay raise increase.
Pardon?
You said you're against your increasing of your payroll for yourself, but you just got a $10,000 pay raise.
I didn't get a pay raise.
You didn't?
I did not, and honestly, we haven't been paid. We got one paycheck about 2 weeks ago. We got paid for the work we did last May. One paycheck. So before that, we hadn't been paid in, I think, 8 months. So I want to ask how many of you who are generally working right now, how you could go for 8 months without a paycheck. Because it's very challenging, because most people can't, and a lot of your legislators can't, which means you're either setting yourself up in a situation where people will refuse to run for these positions because they can't put their families in a situation where they're not going to get their mortgage paid for, or you're only going to get independently wealthy people to run, and a lot of people are really concerned independently wealthy people don't know what the average guy is going through. So,
Don't remind her. Don't
Illinois
remind
has
you.
7,000 taxing entities.
okay.
7,000. State of California, a much larger state, has 3,000.
Okay.
Why is that?
So,
Are you looking at eliminating redundancy among some of these taxing bodies,
Yes.
which could do a lot towards, making the state solvent again?
So, yes, what I'm going to caution you is yes and no. So on one hand, the reason we have a lot more taxing bodies than a lot of other states is because of our state constitution. In the state constitution, they actually limited what it was that any entity of government could do in an effort to try and keep it from kind of going crazy and becoming too big for its britches and doing all sorts of things. Which meant if you wanted something to happen in your community, like a mosquito abatement district or even like fire districts, the community had to vote to make that a thing and vote to create a funding source for it. They didn't just say, well, your village could do whatever they wanted to, unlike what maybe happens in other states. So that's why we have lots of little separate things instead of one big, vague, amorphous.
There's a lot of, little sidebars or little discussions, and we're kind of going in tangents here, but it's a fundamental problem that's been brewing for the last 15, 20, 30 years, is the financial debt we're in, okay? That's been the practices of the majority government that's been in place, and all the spending policies gone in place here. So now we're in present day. Okay, we've got a income revenue problem to the state to pay the bills. Now here's an example of the impact all the spending has had. You've seen the Chicago Tribune. These are all the tax delinquent properties in Cook County. There's thousands of properties out here which are probably going to be, not paying into the revenue system here, which ends up being with all these building, the O'Hare Elgin, all this money being spent everywhere else, all the different, the public sector employees, the benefits, the pensions, all this debt and burden been put onto the taxpayer. As a result, you got people can't make more their tax payments, so it's less revenue going into the system. And then the impact that's going to be is services like Kenneth Young, other type of services needed by people are being hurt. The public to service employees are most of them getting paychecks, his pensions are in debt. There's a lot of things that are wrong with the whole system that is in place today. There's really no answers. A lot of talk, there's blame on Ron, or blame here, blame everywhere. But I think what should be done, the admission that they've screwed up, they milked the system, they've sipped the tax dollars off into whatever it goes to, built all this debt up, jobs are leaving the state, and businesses are leaving the state. Union contracts being negotiated, very lucrative benefits and deals here. There's a fundamental problem here that needs to be fixed, and you should get your compadres out there and say, the hell with Madigan, we're all going to group together, I don't care what he says, how much it's going to hurt your political career. You need to change the system. It's going to hurt a lot of people.
Okay.
It has to be fixed.
Is it my turn?
Yes, you've been talking quite a bit, I have my share.
My
Yeah, right. Oh, it's a two-way conversation.
It is.
Talk about blame, just blame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have my 3 minutes. You can talk now.
So on one hand, remember, I know that it is very hard to understand, but it is your Democratic majority that steers where Madigan goes and not the other way around, despite what we've all been led to believe. We tell him generally what we find acceptable and what we are individually willing to vote on for our own districts, and you got to conglomerate that together somehow. If you want to talk about the salaries and the benefits that your unionized state employees are receiving right now, That contract is negotiated only by the governor. Now, he is also in like a 20-month negotiation with those employees over what their contract is going to look like, but the House and the Senate get to have no say in that contract negotiation whatsoever. And if you actually go back to the last time Quinn did it, Quinn negotiated and he got some savings on the health care, and then when he got some savings over here, he gave them all modest raises. Well, the House and the Senate, when they were making their appropriations, said, hey, Governor Quinn, that's really nice. We'd like to give them raises, but we just don't think economically we can squeeze that in, and most of our constituents haven't gotten raises, so we're going to flat fund them. We're just going to give them the same amount of money they had before. Sorry about the raises. We got sued over that, and the courts made us pay back the raises with the back interest they were supposed to have after the delay in the court hearings, right? So we tried to lower that on our own, but we couldn't. So now you have to wait and see what Governor Rauner ultimately comes up with. If we're going to talk about the pensions, remember the state came up with a plan to try and lower the cost of the pensions, and we were sued over that too. And the court came out and said, you have to honor the original contract you signed with those employees. You can't just change it because you regret it now. You have to pay that. So until we come up with a plan that gets some sort of savings that the court will agree to, we owe the cost of the pension, and the pension is actually on the ramp designed back under the Edgar administration when they were trying to get a handle on the pension themselves. They created a 45-year funding plan where they kept their own payments very flat and started increasing them in the outlying years because they didn't have any money and they assumed things would get better in the future.
Yeah.
They were wrong. We're in the future. We're on the ramp. And not only are we paying the increases they had scheduled for us, we have to pay higher increases to account for the downturn in the economy that they didn't schedule in. And now you look at it right now and you'll see that our increase is again higher than originally anticipated because the return on investment has been so low. You're getting less back, we're getting less back. But the way the pension works is we have to make up the shortfall. So we have to pay for that until further notice. We already have a Tier 2. Tier 2 has a significantly different kind of pension that's actually very rocky, and we're going to have to deal with that. And we will get savings from Tier 2, but not right away. And I got to pay the bill now. So the question is, how do you keep pace with that bill right now?
Okay.
Now, some people disagree with that. But to date, there has not been a consensus about we should actually try and go down the road of trying to change the Constitution.
One more quick one. Why were you excused from voting on the important ComEd emergency bill when you were the vice chairman of the Energy Committee?
I had other committees to attend to. It is very common for us to be moved in and out of committees. So there's no hanky-panky going on for that. That's all there was. So I wasn't there. I was in a different committee when they held that vote, and I voted against that proposal because I didn't think it was fair to charge my residents more money in order to bail out Exelon, which is already a nationally profitable company. Now, I'm all about the green energy, and that was a really hard vote for me because I'm very excited about the prospects that would bring in, but I didn't think that was an okay vote for my residents.
So who are you working for, Governor Rauner or for Mike Madigan? Are you working for?
Me?
He's
I work
working
for
for
you,
us.
yes. I work for you, that's why I'm voting.
They will not be paying the full amount, say 100% will that satisfy the budget deficit?
I didn't hear the full question.
All right, the point I was saying, if you're able to magically change the rule and charge the businesses the full amount of tax burden, make it 100%, a lot higher, would that balance the budget? I don't think so.
I don't
Not
think
the
so.
highest,
Right.
it's among the highest in the nation, particularly with property taxes.
So property taxes, yes. The rest of your taxes, we're really pretty middle of the ground. And our flat 3.75 puts us very much at the bottom of the pack.
The output of schools in many districts is just awful, despite the fact that we poured billions into them over the years. Now, so my,
That's true.
My question
It's true.
is, you've described many things that get in the way of things getting done. I'm fed up, and I'd like to see action that corrects and gives us better outcomes. But you told us about why we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do this. Now, what can we do to straighten this out? And do not you and your colleagues, even those with an ideology that I may not agree with, don't they feel some responsibility? to sustain the state, make it whole, make it great.
Yes, yes, but, right? I mean, I think part of your problem is you have entities for whom, and we can do it right here in this room, your vision of what a better state looks like is not the same as what her vision of a better state looks like, right? So we would like to think that we could all agree on some amorphous, well, just do what's right, but it doesn't really look like that because your right is not the same as her right, and yet you're both here